Hi, welcome to Culture Shot. I want to speak this week about speed and specifically about the underlying philosophy of your organization as it relates to speed. I've had some time over the last couple of weeks to work with big businesses, small businesses. Every single time I do, I have this reconfirmed observation, which is that big businesses move more slowly than small ones. That may sound obvious. Big ones have lots of people, lots of complexity. You might have shareholders who don't operate inside the organization all the time, and they're more interested in return than they are in your sudden devotion to core values or something like that. Whereas in small organizations, they're often owner-led. They can decide to do what they want. There's lots less complexity, fewer people to convince. All of that's rather obvious. But the thing is, when it comes to something like culture, what I see all the time is that small organizations go and do really brave and audacious things. Large organizations envy them, start doing things, and then kind of pull up the handbrake, and nothing really gets done. And the problem with it is, to the people within those organizations, their observation is that nobody's really serious. And let me give you an analogy to sort of highlight this. South Africans will understand this, but perhaps elsewhere in the world you'll get the idea as well. This will be something that you're familiar with as well. Let's suppose you have friends, very close friends, who tell you that they're about to emigrate to Australia. That's something that happens here a lot. They decide they're going to emigrate to Australia, and that's not a surprising thing. I mean, you kind of go, okay, cool, well, interested to hear how that all goes. When you see them a couple of weeks later, if they haven't done anything about it yet, you might go, well, you know what, it's a big decision. But when it's a few months later and still nothing has happened, you might regard them as not being very serious. Because if they were serious, you'd expect that by that time they've got some real information in hand, and they've done something more crucial. At some point over the few months after they've decided to start looking into it, they've actually got on a plane and they've gone to have a look. When they come back to you and they've been over there and they've had a look and they've kind of gone, okay, fine, well, we know what the schools are like, we know how this works, we know how that works, you've started to say, well, okay, they're really serious about this. And maybe you can get behind it and help them with their journey. Until they do that, though, until they actually get on a plane, all they're doing is talking. Here's the big difference. Small organizations are much better at getting on planes to Australia than large organizations are. And as a result of it, it's much easier for people to get behind them. And as a result of that, I think things like culture change, embracing change of any kind, becomes much more of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You got to get on the plane at some point, guys. That's the big secret. That's the big difference. Have a great week.